No one would want to go through what Julian Assange has endured. He is seen by some as a champion of information freedom, while others consider him a security threat, branding him as an irresponsible information thief. This controversy will likely remain unresolved for a long time. It's the price he paid for defending a belief that has made him a contemporary legend, recorded in history. Today, let's talk about Assange's story and why he regained his freedom despite charges from the US government. Julian Assange was born in Australia in 1971. In his teenage years, he began programming and entered the world of hacking under the pseudonym Mendax, inspired by ancient Roman poetry meaning noble liar. By his 20s, Assange was a renowned hacker in Australia. He and two friends created a magazine teaching people how to hack telecom networks to make free calls. Assange also discovered a backdoor to a secret US military defense data network, and according to him, they controlled this network for 2 years. In 2006, Assange founded WikiLeaks, a website that made him a household name. WikiLeaks is dedicated to publishing classified official documents, exposing secrets about wars, espionage, and corruption. Starting in 2010, WikiLeaks released thousands of sensitive US government and military documents related to the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, including a notorious video of US troops killing civilians in Baghdad, and documents on prisoner abuse at Guantanamo Bay. These leaks sparked global attention and controversy. The US government quickly accused Assange of endangering American lives through his leaks and charged him with conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. This marked the beginning of Assange's life on the run. In August 2010, Sweden issued an arrest warrant for Assange, wanting to investigate allegations of rape and molestation from 2 women. Assange claimed these charges were baseless and part of a US plot to extradite him for trial. Due to an international arrest warrant from Sweden, Assange surrendered to the London police in December 2010 but was quickly released on bail. In February 2011, a British court ruled to extradite Assange to Sweden. Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa, admiring and sympathizing with Assange, offered him asylum. In August 2012, Assange sought refuge at the Ecuadorian embassy in the UK, where he stayed for 7 years. Despite the confinement, Assange continued to make statements from the embassy balcony and give media interviews while WikiLeaks remained active. However, he couldn't step outside the embassy and suffered significant mental stress. Reports suggested he became volatile, even throwing feces on the embassy walls in anger, leading to growing impatience among embassy staff. Notably, in 2017, Sweden dropped the rape and molestation charges against Assange. But things didn't go smoothly thereafter. In 2017, Ecuador elected a new president, who revoked Assange's asylum in April 2019. Assange was immediately dragged out of the embassy and arrested by British authorities. For breaching bail conditions, he was sentenced to 50 weeks in prison without bail. Around the same time, Sweden reopened the investigation into the 2010 allegations, and the U.S. Department of Justice sought Assange's extradition to the U.S. on 18 counts of espionage-related charges, which could lead to a 175-year sentence. Thus began a back-and-forth legal battle in British courts, with Assange held in solitary confinement at Belmarsh Prison, a high-security facility in southeast London for serious offenders, including terrorists and violent criminals. This harsh environment led many to argue that Assange was being treated unjustly. Recently, Assange's ordeal seemed to reach a turning point. In June 2024, the 52-year-old Assange reached a plea deal with the U.S. Department of Justice, pleading guilty to just one of the 18 charges conspiring to obtain and disclose national defense information. He was sentenced to 62 months in prison, but since he had already served his time in London, Assange effectively completed his sentence and regained his freedom. After 14 years on the run since 2010, Assange finally gained his freedom by compromising and pleading guilty. He returned to his homeland, Australia. When his plane landed in Canberra, Assange embraced his wife tightly, a moment so touching it was hard not to be moved. Here's an interesting detail. Assange was banned from commercial flights, so his wife, Stella, urgently crowdfunded $520,000 for a private jet. On the day of the fundraiser, someone donated 8 bitcoins worth $500,000. Some speculated that the donor was Twitter, now X, co-founder Jack Dorsey, who coincidentally posted "Safe Passage Through" on X at the time of the donation. At this point, you might wonder why Assange's story, so complex and dramatic, ended so abruptly and with such a light sentence. Why did the US government let him off so easily? The answer lies in a confluence of diplomatic, legal, and political factors coming together at the right time. The resolution of Assange's plight began with the May 2022 Australian election results. New Prime Minister Anthony Albanese of the Labour Party put Assange's case on the agenda, seeking his release with bipartisan support in Parliament. In September 2024, an Australian parliamentary delegation travelled to Washington to lobby for Assange's release. In October, Prime Minister Albanese discussed the matter with US President Biden during his White House visit. A key figure in these efforts was Stephen Smith, former Australian Foreign Minister and current ambassador to the US. He visited Assange in Belmarsh in April 2023 and worked extensively towards his release. And of course, these politicians' efforts were also driven by public concern in Australia, where many people supported Assange's release and believed the public had a right to know the truth. Assange's legal team planned to defend him using the First Amendment rights to free speech. This is why Assange often described himself as a journalist, deserving protection under free speech rights. However, the challenge was whether these rights applied to an Australian citizen. The US Department of Justice recognized that this strategy could drag the lawsuit out for months or even years, incurring significant legal costs and public pressure. Assange's legal team also knew that the First Amendment defense only applied to 17 of the 18 charges related to leaking information, not the original 2010 hacking charge. Realizing the risks, both sides came to the negotiation table, leading to the plea deal. The US, Australia, and the UK are key members of the AUKUS Defence Alliance. The Assange case had been a thorn in the side of US and UK relations, and both sides were eager to resolve it, maintaining good relations within the alliance. It's rumored that the Biden administration wanted the issue resolved before the November elections. Thus, a combination of favorable factors at the right time led to Assange's release. Many interpret Assange's case as a struggle for press freedom. Alternatively, his story illustrates the price of challenging a state institution and the difficulty ordinary people face in accessing truthful information. Compared to another whistleblower, Edward Snowden, Assange might be considered lucky because he finally gets to go home. Okay, thanks for your watching. See you next time.